Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to delve into elemental magic. The earth is not an inanimate body, but is inhabited by the spirit, which is its life and its soul. All created things draw their strength from the earth spirit. This spirit is life. It is nourished by the stars, gives nourishment to all living things that it shelters in her womb. And that was wrote by a medieval European alchemist. I think it's Basilius Valentinus. We humans are part of the planet Earth. Our bodies are made of the matter of Earth, and the conditions on Earth are perfect to sustain human and other life. It is natural, then, to view Earth as the mother of us all, the giver of life to all living beings. As human beings, we are part of all life, for life on Earth is one, indivisible, continuum. It is only when we feel one with the primal roots of existence that we experience wholeness. Traditional spirituality, of which natural magic is a part, teaches us that we are not separate from nature and have no special privileges. The planet Earth, the plants, the animals that have so much right to exist as we do. It is not proper for human beings to wantonly destroy nature. Like other creatures, we may take only what we need to live our lives in harmony, health, and beauty. To perform natural magic, we must always bear this in mind. Natural magic is the right usage of the creative force that exists within all things, including us. This creative force is neutral. It has no direction until it is directed by a conscious will. So it is up to us to direct it for the good of all beings, without subverting the free will of others. The aim of natural spirituality is to live well, whatever we do. Being in harmony with nature does not mean that we should passively accept those natural processes that tend to destroy us. It means recognizing the underlying laws and patterns of nature and using them wisely. We can live harmoniously only when we follow the true principles of nature. These true principles are the basic ways that existence operates, and by understanding and following them, our life can be so much easier. The principle of the law of the unity of opposites is one of the most significant themes in natural magic. It tells us that there can be no existence without no being. There can be no life without death, no creation without destruction, no beginning without an end. Every aspect of everything is important. We can do nothing at all that will not have some effect, however small, on ourselves and the world around us. European traditional spirituality emphasizes this oneness of humans with the world. We must be aware of the possible outcome of every action we take and try our best to do no harm to the world or other sentient beings. Existence has a natural process that has a threefold triadic structure: start, process, finish. Otherwise, beginning, middle, end. This appears in life as the threefold phenomenon of birth, life, and death. Throughout their philosophy, the ancient Celtic bards recognize this threefold structure of being. This is expressed in ancient writings. These are called the Triads of Britain, in which the wisdom of bards and druids is taught in threefold sayings. Certain parts of the world have distinct seasons that come in regular cycles each year. These cycles have affected the development of culture, religion, and yes, even magic. The seasons dealt with, we have to understand that different seasons brings a different cycle. And, we have to exist evolving into those cycles. The year is divided naturally into two halves, which are further subdivided into 4 quarters. The 2 halves are the dark and the light halves of the year, and in the dark half, the nights are longer than the days. In the light half, the days are longer than the nights. At the transition points between the 2 halves are the equinoxes, when day and night are of equal duration. At the spring equinox, in late March, the light half begins. At the autumnal equinox, in late September, the dark half. The quarters of the year are defined in relation to the solstices, or turning points of the sun. From the summer solstice, the middle of the light half of the year, in late June, the length of daylight each day steadily declines, and the length of night increases. At the middle of the dark half of the year is the winter solstice, in late December. After the winter solstice, the longest night of the year passes, and the length of daylight each day increases. This increase continues through the spring equinox, when both day and night are of equal length, and the light half of the year is entered. The proportion of light to darkness continues to increase until we are back at the summer solstice again, when daylight is at its maximum and the night is at its shortest. The interrelationship of light and dark in the 24-hour cycle of the day is essentially the same as the cycle of the year, having the same fourfold structure, but except all at the equinoxes. The relative length of the quarters is not equal, whether we find it in the light, dark cycles of the day, the year, or the moon. This is a natural principle that underlies the existence of many beings and things. Because of this, certain seasons are more magically appropriate for certain activities than are others. Activities to do with birth, growth, and renewal are best performed in springtime, with those of endings, death, and dissolution, they're best done at the beginning of winter. Certain activities are best conducted at sunrise, moon, sunset, or midnight. In addition to the cycle of the sun through the year, there is a lunar cycle. This is independent of the sun, and in any one solar year, there are 13 full moons. The moon cycle takes just longer than 28 days. It's divided, like the year, into 2 halves and 4 quarters. At the new moon, the moon is invisible from the earth, being illuminated by the sun on the opposite side. It is in complete darkness, as far as we are concerned. Then comes the first thin crescent, gradually waxing, until a week later, it is a half moon, or the first quarter. The moon continues to grow, by now having more lightness and darkness until it is full. The full moon is a time of total light. Now the moon begins to wane, and a week later, it is in its last quarter, again a half moon, facing in the opposite direction. Here the moon enters the dark half of her circle, finally waning further. She disappears at the next new moon. In former times, it was thought that the moon in each cycle was indeed a new one. The moon cycle is essentially the same as the cycle of the day and the year. Natural spirituality has no place for artificial festivals and celebrations. There are invariably the record of some historical events that supporters claim changed the world in some way. All religions, political systems, and nation states have these days, whether to commemorate the birth of the prophet or a hero, a revolution, or the founder of the state. These are subjective, often support human power structures, and ultimately depend on the accuracy of calendars to maintain their true position in the year. Even the months and days are part of this unnatural worldview. The equinoxes and the solstices and the phases of the moon and the other end are real events, as are the birth of the first lamb of the year, the appearance of the first leaves of springtime, and the harvest. These are natural times, independent of human beliefs. When we conduct our activities by the calendar, then we're using a human-made system that may not be in harmony with the natural flux of the seasons and the weather. For example, springtime may come early or late in the year, but is not defined by a date on a calendar that says first day of spring. We know when it is springtime. All you have to do is look at the new leaves and the blossoms. If the leaves have not yet appeared, even the calendar tells us spring has begun, we know that in reality it has not begun. When we perform our magic according to these more natural happenings, then we're truly in harmony with nature. Natural magic understands time to go in cycles. Cycles of the sun, the moon, they define the day and the year. And there are other earthly cycles that determine the qualities of time. One is the vegetation cycle, which follows the actual conditions of seasonal temperatures. These lag behind the sun because the earth, it only heats up slowly in half days, let's say. And remember, we have the dark half and the light. It only grows in the light. The vegetation year is divided into two parts, the flower year and the harvest year. The flower year is a cycle whose low point is November, December, and whose high point is May, June, when the harvest year has its low point in February, March, and its high point in August, September. Unlike the year that follows the progress of the sun, the flower and harvest years vary greatly from year to year, according to the progress of the seasons. These vegetation years are the origin of the most ancient traditional festivals, which mark the four most important points within them. Today, when these festivals are observed, they are linked to the sun calendar as dates. But in former times, they were celebrated when the signs of nature showed people that it was time. They were known today by their old Scots and Irish Celtic names. But they are observed more widely than in just Celtic countries of North and Western Europe. The harvest year begins with a festival of lights, known by the two Celtic names of Imbolc and Brigatia, which is the low point of plants in the depths of wintertime. The next festival of vegetation year is Beltane, when the white horn tree or May tree blossoms. The young leaves are flourishing on the trees. This is usually celebrated on May the 1st in the solar calendar, but traditionally, Beltane is when the May tree blossoms, and not before. This is the high point of the flower year. The third festival is Lammas, or you can also call it Lunasa. This is celebrated when the first leaf of bread from the wheat or barley harvest is made. It too is linked with the solar calendar and is celebrated on August the 1st. The fourth festival is Samhain. This is also linked to the solar calendar, being celebrated on November the 1st. The harvest year ends here, for Samhain is the third harvest. The first harvest is Lammas, when the grain is harvested. The second is at the autumnal equinox, when the fruits are harvested. While the third is in Samhain, the traditional time to slaughter animals to preserve their meat for the coming winter. And that is the start of our elemental magic journey. In order to go any further than what we have, we must first understand everything that is coming to us seasonally by the moon, by the sun. So we have to start from the very beginning. Do join me on this beautiful journey where we learn to connect more with nature, be at one with the earth, and gain magical skills. When we come back, we shall look at the days of the week and how that cooperates with the work we do. Please hit the like, share if you can, and if you've not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. Many blessings.